welcome to the 21 Minutes or Less podcast. Today we are going to be talking about cognitive distortions. I don't know about any of y'all, but I hear about these a lot, just, being an intern as a therapist. And a lot of my clients who have anxiety or depression definitely are experiencing some of these. So we're going to get into them a little bit. Nikia, you can start off. What's your favorite one that you do?
Okay, so before I tell you it's not my favorite one.
Girl, the
But I'm
one
gonna
you do the
tell
most
you
often.
exactly. I'm gonna tell you the two I do the most often, but before I get into that, I just wanted to go ahead and list the 10 just in case our listeners may not know what they are. So, of course, cognitive distortions is negative emotions or thinking patterns. So, you always hear people saying they want to manifest or think positive. Well, this is the opposite of that. So, one is all or nothing thinking. Two is overgeneralization. Three is mental filter. Four is discounting the positive. Five is jumping to conclusions. Six is magnification. Seven is emotional reasoning. Eight is should statements. Nine is labeling. And 10 is personalization and blame. So out of these, I do a few, but the two that I'm gonna talk about is mental filter and I would say emotional reasoning. So mental filter, what is that? So that's like when you pick one single negative detail and you just think about it constantly. So hypothetically, I give a presentation. The presentation overall went well. And then my professor will say, oh, you should have done this differently. Or you can do this better. So instead of thinking about, maybe the A that I received and the overall presentation being almost perfect, I'm thinking about those little details over and over and kind of like saying, "Oh, I should have did this, I should have did that." When in reality, it's kind of like those are just things you need to improve on. It's not necessarily something that you should dwell about, if that makes sense.
For sure. I
Yeah.
definitely have gotten better with that. Just because, I try to focus on the positive now. And
Mhm.
that's actually too, that's discounting the positive as well. And you can have multiple cognitive distortions at once. So, um, I can definitely relate to just mentally filtering out, all the good things and focusing on the bad things. But lately, I don't feel like I've done that. It took a lot of practice to get to that point, but I just have too much positive things going on to just manifest the negative things. Because whether you think about it or not, I mean, whether you realize it or not, when you think about negative things, you manifest in those because
Mhm.
what we think attracts, like, it comes to us. So if we're thinking about negative stuff, then that's what's gonna come to us. So I just try to not think about negative stuff ever.
Yes. And I also noticed that too. Like when we think about our past, sometimes we can kind of get caught up on the negative stuff that happened in our past. When 9 times out of 10, there was more positive than negative, but we kind of like dwell on those bad things. So yeah, when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, I definitely need to do better in that area. So the other one is emotional reasoning. So I think I'm a very rational person, but lately I have been emotional. I
Mm.
think a lot of us have been kind of emotional with 2020 going on. I don't know what's going on in the air or whatever, but
Corona. That's what's in the air. Coronavirus.
yes, but I have been really, really emotional lately. And you have to be careful with your emotions because your emotions are fickle. Like they come and they go. It doesn't mean that what you're feeling is, your actual reality. It's just
Yeah.
a moment in time, and that emotion can be there today and go in the next, 24 hours. So you have to be careful, especially when it comes to decision making.
Mm.
So you don't ever want to make a irrational decision based off your emotions at that time, especially if it can affect you in a longevity or long term way of
Mm.
something that like a short term feeling. So yeah.
I definitely had to learn to control that one. On Twitter, like people would say something and it just throw my whole day off, and I'd just be really mad or irritated, and I just going off, and I just realized like they make me look just as crazy as them when I respond to crazy stuff, or it's gonna like I just felt like I was doing a disservice to all the people that say nice stuff and just being supportive to just focus on the negative things that one or
Hmm.
two or eight people might say. And it's like I'm giving them emotion. Like it's only happening. I'm only responding to this because I'm emotional about it. Because I feel some type of way. I feel hurt, or I feel threatened, or I feel like I'm fearful of what people might think based off what they said. So I definitely try to control my emotions. It's still a work in progress, but you know, our feelings to get the best of us sometimes, and we won't be able to control them. So that's why I'm trying to learn how to control them now, because you know that can land you honestly in a lot of trouble like later on in life, with the law, with your significant other. But yeah, I think it's again a work in progress that you gotta continually like be aware of to start changing,
Yes.
especially since it's a cognitive distortion, because 99% of the time this stuff is not happening out loud or in
Mhm.
real life. It's all in our heads. So you got to be really 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 strong minded to be able to start, reframing some of those cognitive distortions and thinking about it from a lot more positive way.
Yeah. Speaking of positive ways, I think a positive way that you can kind of, try to combat this emotional reasoning is maybe going for a run or exercising or meditating or listening to some affirmations or something just to get your mind out of that that negative state
Mhm.
until you can feel better, because once you start feeling better you start attracting more positive things. And
For
then
sure.
of course if you think negative, then of course those negative everything is going to feel annoying. Everything is going to irritate you. Everything is going to be like it's the end of the world, when in actuality, that's just your world. Everybody else's world is going perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like you have control over if you're going to have a bad day or not, based off your thinking and your emotions and what you think about.
The most important words are the ones you say to yourself.
Right.
So if you feel like, I feel guilty because of this and this and this, you're gonna start manifesting guilty thoughts, guilty actions.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna start moving different. If you manifesting, oh, I feel really, really great about this. I'm happy about it. I'm excited. That's what you're gonna get. So just change your, emotional reactions to things, and they can have a big impact.
Definitely. And just to throw in some spiritual, pray. I know people always say manifesting, but what do you think prayer is? That's the same thing. You're still manifesting through prayer. So if if you want to pray and talk to God and you know get that spiritual feedback or spiritual guidance, do that as well.
Facts. For me, the ones I think I do the most is probably jumping to conclusions, first of all. And it's two different ways to jump to conclusions. And I do them both. Is mind reading. So basically just thinking you can read somebody's mind and assuming whatever for them. And then the other one is fortune telling. So that's basically just being able to like see the future or be like, well, this is gonna happen after this and this and this. And again, I really had to like start noticing more when I do these to be able to stop them. Um, just as an example, I was texting this dude the other day and I figured out that he gave me a text now number. So I was like, I just started tripping. I'm like, yeah, you got a bitch. That's why you gave me a text now number, because you trying to text me on the side. So I just started mind reading, jumping to conclusions, like fortune telling, like, oh, you trying to play me, you on some sneaky shit, like just lose my number. But it's like I jumped to conclusions because when we initially started talking, it was like for him to learn about Forex or whatever. So he was like, people be scamming. I didn't want to give you my real number right away if I didn't think it was legit. So it's just like you never know what somebody motives is or why they doing stuff. So I read this book, or I listened to it on audio, but it's a book. It's called The Four Agreements, and one of the agreements is that you should not be making assumptions. Jumping to conclusions is making assumptions, 100%. So I started to become more mindful of that, and that was literally like yesterday or 2 days ago, y'all. So this is still a work in progress. I was texting this person earlier this week, jumping to conclusions, and it ended quick. It just was like, well, I assumed that you was trying to play me, so I'm just gonna end it. But whole time he could have been a good person, and he could have been, worthy and valuable, and whatever. He probably could have learned about forex, but I just didn't even want to waste time trying to figure out, like, if you had a bitch, if you was playing, why did you give me this text now number? Why you didn't trust me to have your real number? And it was just like, when I got the answer, I was like, oh, this is not what I thought. But I had already acted a fool, so let me just ask. So yeah, I think my reading is deadly. I'm not gonna lie, because that mean you whatever. You just thinking people think whatever. Everybody.
Yes.
So definitely don't do that, y'all.
On any level, whether it's relationships, at a job, networking, anything. You don't ever want to like jump to conclusions, because what you're thinking could be like the total opposite. And the best way to not jump to conclusions is to ask questions. Just communicate and ask questions, and then you are going to get the answer, whether it's the answer you want or the answer you don't want. But at least you would know instead of just assuming.
Yes, yes, especially with bosses too. I used to be scared to ask for days off. Like, I don't know why. I don't know. I just always felt like I would wait till the last minute and didn't need a day off. So I'd just be like, oh yeah, they're not going to give it to me, or they're going to be mad I asked so late. And then whole time they understanding. They don't even care. They like, okay, bet. I know you in college. I know you got this going on. Cool. Especially because I didn't ask a lot. So it would be like, girl, you ain't went nowhere in 3-4 months. Yeah, like, go ahead, enjoy yourself. So you really just got to get that courage. I'm not going to lie. It starts with courage. A lot of times we are fearful. That's why we give an answer for people. I even say too, when I started doing forex, like I didn't want to ask a lot of people. Like, they first tell you when you get in, like, ask your immediate family and friends. I wasn't asking nobody, because I just jumped to conclusions and read their mind, like they not gonna be interested, or they not gonna want to pay the fee, or they probably gonna think this a scam. But it's like, if I don't ask those people, it's like I'm never gonna be able to expand my network and grow in the business. So it's like, you just gotta, it's fear. You gotta be courageous and be bold and just be okay with rejection.
Yes.
And I think that's what it is, just getting comfortable with getting uncomfortable.
Exactly. I definitely agree. So what's one other one that you think you do a lot?
Oh, definitely the overgeneralization. Like, one bad thing could go wrong in a day. I'm like, oh no, this is a bad day. Like, that one bad thing made me feel like, ugh, this day horrible. Now the day really gonna be horrible, because I'm thinking about it as a horrible day instead of that one situation was horrible. Even with people too, your friend flaw, I'ma just assume the whole friend group flaw. Like, I'ma overgeneralize it to everybody, and yeah, it's like I gotta work on that, because everybody is individual. Every situation is individual. And when you start to overgeneralize things too broadly, you start to pick up some things that don't even fit in the category.
Yes.
And it's like, that's where the distortion comes in. You want us to say all and every, and it's just one or two.
It is so funny that we do that, because you learn in college and in school that you have to have data to back up what you're saying. You have to have like some explanation. So to overgeneralize without having facts and data and statistics and stuff to back it up is kind of like, okay, this is an opinion. This is not fact. This is just your opinion about what it is that you are thinking right now. And definitely everyone has an opinion. And everyone feels like their opinion is valid. And I think that can definitely distort reality a little bit.
I just feel like all of these affect your self-esteem because you start to personalize things or generalize things or jump to conclusions, and at the end of the day, it only hurts you.
Yes.
Like, it just all hurt your self-esteem. Let's say, going back to the overgeneralization, you get rejected. You shooting shots in the DMs. You get rejected by one person. Now your self-esteem, or you feel like, oh my gosh, like all these girls gonna reject me, or all these dudes, whatever. And it's just like you hurting your self-esteem, assuming that when you could just keep shooting
Yes.
and see for yourself that somebody's gonna bite eventually.
Especially as an entrepreneur. I mean, fear of rejection is like that's at the top of your mind when you're trying to make a sale, when you're trying to do outreach to people. You're thinking, oh man, nobody's gonna reply, or no one's gonna purchase my product or service, when it's not true. Every niche in every industry has a tribe, so you just have to find your tribe and vibe with them, and and the people will come.
And I think too, we try to when we do get that rejection or whatever, we think that people gonna be out here talking about us, or like telling their friends like, oh, this person tried to sell me something today. Do you know how much stuff we get sold every day and we say no and we go about our business? Like, people coming up to our doors trying to get us get our lawns mowed. No, thank you. You think they sitting here thinking about us saying no? They gotta keep knocking on doors to get to the house that's saying yes, because somebody's saying yes. And you're gonna hit a lawnmower down the street, mowing your neighbor's grass.
Exactly.
Just, and nobody, you don't go in your house and start talking about, oh, this Mexican dude thought I was finna get my grass cut by him. Like, no, we don't care after about a good 5 seconds. So it's like, it's just, I don't know why. It's just
This
the
going
fear.
back to the mental filter too. Yeah. Dwelling on that one rejection, or dwelling on that one no.
I love a good no. I'm not gonna lie. I love a good no now. Like, I used to didn't think about it like that, but when you just get to a certain point in business or in life, and it's like, things are flowing, whether you want it to be as quickly as you want it or not, but it's like you can't even be ungrateful about the no's. Just like keep going until you get those yeses, and it's gonna be way more rewarding.
Oh yes. Speaking of which, I have an example for us. Cause
the email.
Yes, the email we received. Okay, so we have been reaching out to people to be speakers on our podcast, and one potential speaker gave us feedback on doing outreach or whatever. She said that she didn't like cold calling, and that it should be more personable, and we should have introduced ourselves before doing the acts. And I was like, that's good feedback. Let's take that into consideration and do that moving forward. It just seemed interesting because we haven't had any issues before that. When we reach out to people and we ask them, if they want to be a guest, they either say, not at this time, or they say yes and they want to be a part of our podcast. So for her to take the time out to even give us feedback, because she could have just ignored the email. She could have just ignored it. We wouldn't have known why she didn't reply or anything. But she took the time out her day to give us feedback on what we could work on. And I could have took that in a negative light, but I didn't. I was like, okay, this is something, an area that we can work on. This is what we need to do to make it more personable when we do outreach to people. So yeah.
That's the key. You can't personalize nothing. I think that was another agreement in the 4 Agreements book I'm reading. But it was like, don't make assumptions and don't take nothing personal.
Absolutely.
You can't.
Everything is a learning opportunity.
It is. All right. So we're about to wrap up. But, make sure if y'all feel like, oh, any of these resonated with me, go research them. Go look up cognitive distortions. See which ones you do. See how you can get over them. Honestly, therapy is a great way to start. Like, I'm not trying to push it on anyone, but this is what I talk about a lot with a lot of my clients, and just figuring out how can we get over these. But yeah, make sure y'all go follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 21 Minutes or Less. And follow us on YouTube at 21 Minutes or Less Podcast. And then go follow our personal pages. Mine is Keisha Milana.
And mine is Miss Butterfly, MISS.
Miss Butterfly 21.
Miss Butterfly 21. See, I'm gonna think about this later. I'm like, listen, how you not know your own Instagram?
No, it's okay. That's why it's two of us. We're a good team. But we are gonna see y'all on the next episode, and try not to overthink nothing.
All right, have a good one, y'all.